The modifying journey of the SEAT Ibiza really has been full of highs and lows, and it's really tested my patience. Last year I purchased my first ever project car, this non-running 2007 SEAT Ibiza for 500 quid. The knackered turbo meant it'd been off the road for 2 years, so it wasn't going to be as straightforward as just putting a new blower back inside it. This car was knackered and unloved. I actually felt I'd taken on more than I could handle. But the following few months I started tackling all the niggling issues on it and throwing loads of money at it, hoping that when it came to turning the key it would finally start. And fortunately, it actually did. So straight away I sent it for its first MOT, and guess what? It passed, with no advisories at all. But as any car enthusiast will relate to, I couldn't leave this car bog standard. The 17-year-old Ibiza had to be a car that when I locked and walked away, I would turn back and look at. So against everyone's recommendations, I started chucking money at the car to modify it. So let's go back in time and join a very optimistic Kev, who's basically taken on a very unrealistic challenge and hasn't got a clue of the work facing ahead of him. We're going to get this car ready for a show, the Golf show, which I did back in April with the Leon previously. This time I'm taking the Leon and the Ibiza with me, as long as I can get it ready for the show, which involves modifying it quite heavily. I want to modify the car anyway. It doesn't make sense money-wise, but it does make it look a lot better, I think, than standard. That's the plan. But the thing is, this is Friday evening and the show starts on Sunday morning, so I need to get a lot done to this very standard, actually very scruffy looking Ibiza. I need to get a lot done, and that involves the following things we've written down here. I've got a Wheel Finesse steering wheel cover put on, I've got wheel spacers, a full vinyl wrap. Oh, another thing as well is the vinyl that I am putting on the car was chosen by my subscribers in a poll about a month ago, I think. I put a few colours up for choices, asked for the favourite one, and then for the favourite one I then did a couple of variations of that as well. So I've now got one choice of colour to go on the car. It's maybe not the most exciting colour I'm going to put on the car, but I actually think it looks really good. It suits the car really well. And you'll see, I'm not going to try and hide it. It's not one of these kind of reveal videos where I then show you finally the colour of it. It's not really any sort of secret. You'll just see it getting applied throughout, and then we'll get the overall look of the car once it's finished. Other wee bits and pieces, I'll be looking to put a front lip spoiler on the Ibiza as well, and also a roof spoiler or boot spoiler, whatever you want to call it, on the back of the car, just to give it a bit more aggressive look. I've taken the wing mirror caps off. They were silver, badly scuffed, so I'm taking them off to spray them black as well. Now, a mate of mine, Robbie, did help fix the exhaust issue, so I got an aftermarket exhaust, stainless steel, but it wasn't quite fitting right at the back of the bumper. It was sitting too far under the car, and the tips were off to one side, so they're pushing against the bumper and melting the bumper when they got warmed up. So Robbie's now thankfully fixed that for me, and that now looks a lot better. And what else have we got? We got, oh yeah, of course, you need to lower it because it is on standard suspension, and it is a bit wallowy as well, so I think the shock absorbers are kind of knackered. So I've got coilovers to go on it as well to slam it on its new spacers. And yes, 1.5 days to do all that. So tonight, all of tomorrow, maybe a late one tomorrow night as well. And yeah, I can't get it in the garage properly because I've got internal doors here in the background. For some reason I chose to do my internal doors in my house in amongst all this as well. Yeah, not the best idea. But on a positive note, I have got a fridge full of energy drink and beers as well to keep myself motivated and going, as well as some cold symptom stuff as well, because yeah, if you can't really tell, I'm a bit choked up with a cold. So I'll be taking some of that as well to keep myself going. Hopefully, voiceover Kev, that will cover the rest of this video when I'm editing it, will be something a lot better and healthier, and the cold will be completely gone. Anyway, let's get cracking with this car. Now, not as if I was short on time, but I decided I wanted that smooth Euro look to the Ibiza, so removing the bump strips and filling in the recess was first up. And yes, it's probably the roughest method to smooth these, but I didn't care, to be honest. I wanted it done as quickly as possible. Karma wheels are excellent at removing sticky foam residue whenever you remove any badges from your car. Also help at covering you in all the foam residue instead. A quick wipe down, and then I mixed up some body filler to fill in the recesses on the doors, and while that was drying I used some of the excess body filler left over to fill in the small imperfections on this RDX spoiler. Once all the filler was dried, I wet sanded the spoiler, primed it, and then began applying this metallic black spray paint. And I used the same spray paint for the scabby wing mirrors as well. Then to achieve that high gloss, I used my favourite lacquer, this 2K clear coat. Just as always, make sure you're wearing a proper mask when using this stuff. and I think they look pretty good. So once that was done, I went inside to organise dinner for the evening and then came back out in the pitch dark to clay bar the whole car. Now the bodywork needs to be free of any contamination before vinyl is placed on top of it. Oh, and there's the test piece of vinyl on the rear door, as I want to check the colour was right for the car before I bought the rest of it. So time to open up this roll of vinyl and get started. And I decided to go for what I thought would be a reasonably easy panel, the bonnet. So let's join me on the following morning to see how it actually went. So what you might have seen last there was me starting on the bonnet, wrapping the bonnet first. And can I just say now, I'm not going to show a full process of what I'm doing for wrapping the car because I'm no expert, I'm no professional at all. I've kind of seen loads of videos. Yanamize obviously does it professionally on YouTube. And I kind of thought, you know, I've seen enough now to know how to do it and it should be no bother, but it's a different story altogether, let me tell you now. I'll put some B-roll clips of what I have done so far on the car. Done bonnet, front wings, the roof, the boot, and the two driver's side and rear driver's side door as well. So they're all done. I have taken the rear bumper off now, which you can see is just sitting here. And I've still got to sand the doors down on the passenger side before I start wrapping them. I have done all the wee door handles, bits and pieces, so at least that's that taken care of. But yeah, this is really, really hard. Respect to anyone that's done a DIY job of wrapping the car themselves. You'll know yourself how hard it is. I wasn't giving it enough thought to what a big job this was. So I don't think I'm going to get the car lowered for the show. I don't think I'm going to get the car itself down to the show. It's 6 o'clock now, so basically 12 hours from now, I'll be heading off down to the show with either both cars or just the Leon, because it's the same as last time. This is like deja vu. I left at the last minute to do the Leon, and it was a mad rush and a late night and like 3 hours sleep before I went off to the show that morning. So I'm doing it again with the Ibiza. And it's my own fault really, because I had plenty of nights like the last few weeks where I've just sat in the house, scrolling through my phone, sitting watching telly, being totally lazy. Don't know if you do this yourself sometimes and you're like, you know in the back of your mind I should really go out, do some work on the car and get myself ahead for nights like this, but no, I just didn't bother, and now I'm paying the price for it now. And yes, I was still thinking there's a small chance I was going to get this whole job done in under 12 hours, and that's not even including getting some sleep. So I cracked on then with trying to smooth out this rock solid body filler. I then slapped on some Tiger Steel onto this Boy Racer spoiler and secured it with a little bit of masking tape. Then on to putting the vinyl on the rear bumper, which I was dreading, and it actually started off reasonably well, but my luck sadly changed. Generally fed up now. It's 9:10 and still got the front bumper to do, doing the back bumper just now, and disaster. So, you know when you get so angry. Anyway, I'll show you. Pretty much done maybe 2/3 of the bumper. Just this bit up here has been a pain in the arse, and heat with my fingers underneath, just went and burst a great big hole in it. So I still had that side to do, but yeah, I'm just generally fed up now. I don't even know, like, this bumper is so difficult. This is a back bumper as well. It should be a lot easier because it's just one curved surface, whereas the front's got all the wee alcoves and stuff, but I'm generally fed up. I really am. I don't know what I can do with this. I've just wasted a massive piece of vinyl for this, and I'm going to stuck a hole in it. I don't think there's any way to rescue that at all. So, yeah. This looks like I'm not making the show tonight. There's no way I'm going to get a new piece on here, then the front bumper done, then put the splitter on, then put the spacers on. Like I said, suspension's not getting done. So this will be a work in progress over the next few days. But I think I'm just going to call it a night. Generally pissed off. Yeah. I'll catch you later on. So fast forward a few days after the Golspie show, I've been now thoroughly watching loads of YouTube videos on doing rear bumpers, especially ones from CK Wraps. Techniques they shared on their YouTube channel definitely helped me apply the vinyl way better the second time around. Still not brilliant, but the main thing is there was no holes this time. I also quickly wrapped the wee fiddly components of the front bumper. The front bumper itself I wrapped off camera in case it went wrong. If you enjoyed the video so far, of course hit the thumbs up button, and if you enjoy car content like this, then please consider subscribing with the button down below. So we're now nearly a week into this project. I think the last time you saw me on camera I would have been in a foul stinking mood. That was about 5 days ago on Saturday evening when I put my fingers through the wrap. Anyway, we're a lot further on. I don't know if you can see there in the distance. It's got dark outside. It's crazy how dark it's getting now. Summertime's kind of pretty much gone and it's getting dark super early again. But I've wrapped a lot more of the car. You've seen a lot of the clips probably already. I've now wrapped the front bumper as well, which is sitting outside. But we're going to take it inside and I'm going to fit the front splitter to the bumper because I think it'll be easier if I turn it upside down here inside the garage and fit it there. And then we've got 2 more doors left on the passenger side and then the rear arches, which also incorporate the bits of the roof, the side above the doors, if that makes sense. So the pillar goes up the side of the windscreen, across the top of the doors and then down the rear arch. So that's got to be done as well. So we're getting there and I'm really pleased with the wrap. But as I'm getting better now with wrapping, I'm finding that these later on panels I'm doing a lot better quality. I'm looking back at the first panels I've done in the car and now I'm not happy with them because the quality of the finish isn't as great and I've made mistakes and stuff. So yeah, that's the other thing as well, is how much of this wrap is actually left. It's really hard to tell when it's on a roll like this how much of that wrap is actually left, as in full lengths. Yeah, this could be pretty tight and I might have to be ordering some more to finish the car off. I'm not sure yet. So I fitted plenty of front splitters over the years before the cars, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert, and if you want to follow this procedure yourself, that's at your own risk. So the blue tape on the splitter was just to hold it still, whereas the blue tape on the bumper itself was to mark the centre line. I want the centre line to then line up with the middle support of the splitter. Then I found that drilling a bunch of holes and screwing in self-tappers works at holding this thing on pretty well. Then it was time to fit the headlight washer flappy things, which required a little trimming so that they set flush inside the bumper. Since I got the bumper off, I thought I'd take the headlights out completely and also just give them a good clean up and try and buff the plastic to make them shine a bit better. So if you have a quick look here, can you tell which one's been done? I don't know if it comes across on camera very well, but this one's a bit kind of cloudy and misty and this one's a bit more clear. It has got a coat of ceramic coat on top, which I've still to buff off, which is why it's a wee bit wet looking and streaky. But yeah, once they're both done, I thought I might as well do it here on the ground in the garage. But in the back of the car, and that should make the front end look a whole lot better with the new bumper now being wrapped as well and the splitter. Might as well do the headlights because they'd let the car down a bit. Now although there's a bunch of headlight restoration kits out there, just a small selection of various wet and dry sandpaper and a machine polisher with some heavy cut and fine cut compound and you'll get exactly the same results. What I didn't capture on camera was me applying a coat of lacquer to help protect them a little longer, as what I had done previously with ceramic coating hadn't quite worked properly. Oh, and of course, with the Ibiza getting all the love recently, the Leon decided to grab my attention by having a fault with his adaptive xenons, so that's probably a future video to look out for. Now to get these shiny new headlamps on the car. And there you go. Of course, I don't want to show you too much of the car because it's going to be a final reveal at the end with the car all finished off. Front end's looking loads better now though. I'm not sure about the number plates around it. It's black, but it's kind of faded black and it's got a lot of marks from the old plates that were on it before. So I might just put a bit of black vinyl wrap over that just to make it look better and tie in with the splitter as well. Once of course the suspension's on and it's a lot lower to the ground, the splitter will look way better as well when it's just kind of skimming the tarmac, so to speak. I forgot to say actually that I'm going to just bin this bottle of ceramic coating. Just this cheap stuff for a tenner online you can get. And this one's been open for a number of months now. I used it for the brake calipers and I think the wheels on the Leon. And at a time when it was a fresh bottle, it worked perfectly. It flashes off really quickly so you can just then buff it and it's nice and smooth and dry. But this time on the headlight, it was just leaving this really nasty sticky residue. So I had to kind of remove that by buffing it off with the machine polisher. Then I had to resand it, then I had to then machine polish it again, and it's looking 10 times better. So this just now is going straight in the bin. So because I've been rubbish with wrapping the car overall, I thought I'd bring in an expert to show me how it's done. So Millie is going to help me. You ready to help me?
Yeah.
Right, so what you got to do, you got to peel that bit off first.
What?
You got to peel it off.
Yeah. That one or that one?
That one, the sticky one.
Okay.
And where does it go?
And I don't know.
Goes on the door.
What?
On the door.
It's up here.
Not on the window, on the door.
Or down.
Yeah, on there. Other way around though, because that's the sticky side.
That way?
No, other way around is in.
That way?
That way, well done.
Oh, yeah. Can we, and we're gonna go to the like that one or that one?
So you make it nice and flat.
Like that.
Yeah. Ignore the blue bit. The blue bit's just paint.
I
But
have to
make sure it's nice and flat, no bubbles. Easy, isn't it?
Yeah. And more when I go back to primary one.
There's a bit of bubble there.
Where?
I thought you were good at this.
Yes,
Bubbles. There's bubbles there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's better.
Whoa, I can't be I can't do that.
No zigzags, just make it flat. Now you're just polishing it. Is that it done? Yeah? That looks alright. Are you happy?
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
And another one look.
2 thumbs up. That good?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that good for 2 thumbs up. Oh, it's not bad.
Yeah, I think it was good.
So after receiving some tips there from Millie of how to wrap the car properly, I'm now going to attempt using that tips that she's given me to wrap this last piece along the bottom here, the sill on the bottom of the car, and then that is the car finally wrapped and finished off. Now it's in no way perfect at all. We'll get a full kind of reveal at the end of how it looks. You can kind of see a bit of what it looks like in the kind of background there, but we will get a full walk around the car. There is wee bits I'm not happy with, like the split here in the vinyl, and there's also a hole there as well. But because I ordered some more vinyl, I didn't have enough because I had wasted some the first time around. I did order more, and I've got some spare here in the box and there as well. And that'll let me do probably 2 wings, maybe a couple of doors as well, if I want to go back and revisit them and redo them at a later date. Because on the door side of things, I don't know if it comes across on camera, but the bump strips area where I smoothed them over with filler and sanded them what I thought was nice and flat. It felt flat when you put the vinyl over it and flush it down. It was showing like little wee bumps in behind it, so it's not perfect at all. But anyway, like I said, the vinyl's done after this last strip here. I'm going to get straight onto the suspension, and we will get a full walk around the car at the very end as well. As you'd expect, the sills were a piece of piss in comparison to the rest of this car. All you've got to do is ensure every part where vinyl is going is properly cleaned beforehand. The front and back edges of the sills can be a little tricky if you've left a wheel arch liner on like I have, but with a little bit of heat, a little patience and some satisfying vinyl smoothing shots, both sills were complete. To summarise this next part, I was basically just showing how expensive vinyls behave with heat and how much easier it is to use in comparison to eBay vinyl. My conclusion simply was to save up that little bit extra money and buy the good brands of vinyl instead. We're finally getting there. The car is now wrapped. Now to tackle the wheel arch gap, which should look something like this now, but before obviously was a lot bigger. Now I could go into detail with taking Ibiza suspension apart, but it's pretty much the same as the Leon, which I did in a video ages ago on the channel. Everything came apart fairly easily as I took it apart a few months ago to fit new strut tops. And that's basically the only reason I'm disassembling the shocks and springs. I want my 4-month-old strut tops back. It's SEAT Plus coilovers that are going on the Ibiza today. Yep, leave your thoughts in the comments. I know there's better ones out there, but I just wanted cheap and cheerful, and the standard shocks on the car were knackered, so I definitely couldn't make the car ride any worse than it already was. Fitting them is, as you guessed, the reverse of removal, and when dropping a car suspension this much, you'll probably need shortened drop links as well. This is because you'll find the drive shafts will be hitting the anti-roll bar, and these ones I bought here work perfectly and can be adjusted in length as well. The back coilovers are even easier. I literally had done them in 25 minutes, and that was the car done. Or, so I thought. It's like this car is quite happy just being off the road because it just seems to be problem after problem. So now I had the car back together, vinyl all wrapped, and took the car out of the garage and the alternator packed in. So that's why it's now missing. So I'm now patiently waiting for a new alternator to come. The battery light obviously came on the dashboard, which means it's usually the alternator it's not charging the battery. When I checked the battery right enough, it's just 12 volts, not the 14 when it should be charging as the engine's running. And yeah, the first thing I looked at was the alternator, and it's not putting out the charge anymore. So new one's ordered, on the way, I'm waiting for that. But one thing when you are changing the alternator, which is probably the pretty much straightforward, self-explanatory thing, is make sure you disconnect the battery first, because I didn't, and these chunky cables down here, which are usually on the alternator, were still live, and I pushed them out to one side and they made contact with the body of the car and blew the big chunky 175 amp fuse, which is these things here. So I got a 5-pack, I think from, 5-pack from Eurocar Parts. I don't know if I'll ever need to have 5 ever, but they're better just have a few spare just in case, because when you try and buy them singly on eBay, they either come from China, which is ages to wait, or you get one that's costing like £6 just for one fuse. So Eurocar Parts, 5 of them, and I'll just keep them as spares because I'm not sure if that one, they're definitely not the same, but these ones here might be 175 as well. So yeah, the alternator fuse blew straight away as soon as that wire touched the rest of the car. Hopefully it didn't cause any other damage, which I'll find out once the car is back together and the battery is reconnected. Anyway, another thing I'm going to do while I'm waiting for this alternator is I'm going to fit the third rocker cover gasket to the engine, because I'm still getting a leak down the back of the engine, and it just runs down gradually over time. As soon as the engine's warm, you get this drip, drip, drip of oil off the bottom of the engine. So I'm going to fit this new one. This one actually came with some new seals where the bolts go into here, so hopefully that maybe seals those areas better as well. I'm going to probably clart it in gasket sealant as well. I know I shouldn't have to, but I'm just going to do it as well to try and minimise the risk of a leak. It must be down the back somewhere, because down here is where I can't see, and that's where I'm definitely getting oil down the back of the engine from this area. The front is completely dry, but because the way the engine sits rocks back a bit, I imagine that's where the oil kind of rests against that gap and just gradually seeps out once it's warmed up. Straightforward job though, because I've done this this is the third time I've done this at least, so that's not an issue. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit a dogbow mount under the engine. I've already replaced the side mount here on the engine. The gearbox mount I never ordered yet, and I'm going to see how much movement is in the engine. If you've seen previous videos, I was kind of complaining about the movement in the engine backwards and forwards, and from that mount on the side as well. So I'm hoping that these two mounts replaced will steady the engine a lot better. If it's still got movement from the last gearbox mount, I'll then get that ordered as well. It's just because it's a bit of a pain, I think, to get to down there. I'm sure it's not too bad really, but I just thought I'd do the two that were easily accessible at the same time. So we'll get this gasket changed over and the dogbow mount on, and maybe that alternator hopefully will come today so I can get that on the car and get this car out of this garage finally. The easiest job on this Ibiza in this video was fitting this chunky 175 amp fuse. But yeah, on a serious note, I should have known better. Always disconnect your battery when working on anything electrical on your car. The rocker cover gasket is a little awkward to get off, but yeah, once off, you can see where the oil had been sneaking out the back door of it, and with a new one fitted and some sealant applied, it was trying to try it for a third time round. The dogbow mount was super easy to remove, and here's a wee demonstration of an old worn out mount versus the new one. And if you're curious of how worn out the engine mount was, here's another shitty scientific demo. Now, while I was lying under the car, guess what turned up? See the smile on my face? I'm a happy man. Guess what's arrived in the post this evening? I feel like we should play that, do you know, that kind of angelic, heavenly choir music, you know. Nice. Well, it looks actually like a new alternator. It's supposedly on the internet, on the eBay, it was listed as potentially new, but had to still be listed as used because it was sat on a shelf. Hadn't been used as far as the owner was concerned ever, but just didn't have a retail box. Anyway, alternator there. Old one here. That has a sticker, Bosch sticker on top. Does have Bosch written there. It looks the same layout on top. This one doesn't necessarily have a sticker on there, but does have Bosch written there as well. Same layout as well, so shouldn't be any issue with that. Get that in the car. Forgot to say as well that while the alternator was off, it gave me good access to the thermostat, which is here, so I've replaced the thermostat as well. The car was never getting up to operating temperature, so usually the culprit for that is a faulty thermostat, and it's pretty straightforward to change once you get the alternator out of the way. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. Yep, you guessed it. After holding it there for a few seconds, I realised it didn't fit. I'm fed up. I didn't even bother checking because I generally thought, as I looked at the top where the connections went, I generally thought it's the same alternator. And as soon as I put it down towards there, I knew, yeah, it's not. It's completely different. It's got these bits up here are a different distance apart than these bits. There's two down here on my one, and this one only's got one. It's the wrong one. I'm going to go and check back the listing. I'll let you know whether it's my mistake or the person that's listed. I'm sure the part number for my original alternator was listed on the listing with other part numbers. You know, when they list a whole bunch of part numbers saying it's cross-compatible, whatever, but yeah, back to the drawing board. And yes, it had been the correct part number, which meant the seller kindly refunded me in full for the alternator. While it was being refunded, I ordered and received a refurbished alternator, which I fed out in the dark a few days later.
Dear society, you suck. Say no, I'm not like you.
And that worked. I was done.
You should go get out, I'll make you regret it. Someone like you should worry about. Maybe it's you who's upside down, and I'm not like you, I don't think that you get it. Ooh.
And the car was, or should I say is, now finished. Well, not quite. I still need to fit the wheel finesse cover. That's not been done yet. The exhaust, although sitting correctly there, is actually sitting on the rear axle and vibrating whenever I start the car up. And back inside the car, the biggest problem just now is the steering rack. So I had the car tracked after it was lowered, and they tracked it, took it for a test run, then they took it back, checked the tracking, it had gone out severely straight away. They retracked it, again another test run, and the same thing happened again. They've checked underneath, everything is perfect suspension wise, but they says the last thing that could be their problem is the steering rack. They could be wearing the steering rack and that would cause the tracking to go out. So a new steering rack is the next big job for this car, and hopefully that will get the steering tracked properly. To be honest, it does feel a bit kind of floaty out on the road. The tracking obviously is a big part of that, but obviously if the steering rack's not nice and tight, that's going to cause that feeling as well. So that's one job that I've got to look forward to. So there she is, my fully modified 2007 SEAT Ibiza. So let me know in the comments what you think. Have I done it tastefully? Have I made a mess of it? Obviously it's a bit rough around the edges for the vinyl wrap, but it was my first attempt, and maybe if I do it again in the future I'll be a little bit better. I appreciate you watching right to the very end, so I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers. Oh, Jesus, nearly.